Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Divorce View radio talk show. Hi, I'm Joanie Winberg, certified human behavior consultant and divorce mentor. Along with me today, I have my co-host, Rosalind Sadaka, who is the founder and the voice of Child-Centered Divorce. So, hello, Roz.
Hi, Joan. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
I'm thrilled to have you here on the show and co-hosting with me. We have a great topic today as well as a wonderful guest. And we're going to be talking about should you divorce your house along with your spouse and the pros and cons. And we actually have a real estate divorce specialist, Joan Rogliano. So Joan, welcome.
Thank you, Joanie. Hi, Roz. It's just my pleasure to be joining you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to have you here because this is a pretty important topic. Do you think this is something a person thinks first when they're ready to go for divorce?
That's a really good question, and I've heard actually from a lot of the family law attorneys that I work with here in Colorado that sometimes that is the first phone call to the realtor rather than to the legal advisor. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that our home is so important to us emotionally. We want to know that we're going to have a roof over our heads, particularly if there are children involved. And for most families, it is the largest financial asset that they own. So they really, really want to know what's going to happen.
Roz, you work a lot with helping children and parents get adjusted. Have you run into this as well?
Oh, certainly. It's a huge reality, and that the home factor is really one of the biggest changes that happens that especially affects children. Where will I be? Will I be in the family home that we've been living in? Will we be selling that and then both parents moving to new residences? Will I be bouncing back where I'm partially in the family home and partially in another residence? And there are so many combinations that happen, and lots of insecurities, of course, that come along with it. So it's great to have an expert who's experienced with this, who maybe could share with us something about what she finds. Is there a commonality, or is it different in every situation?
Well, I think both of you, I would hope you would both agree that with every divorce there is a commonality, there is a thread, but every divorce is very different and it needs to be customized to each family. And this is where we really experience a challenge, because I'm finding a lot of the legal providers feel as though regarding the marital home, it's a one-size-fits-all. They frequently feel as though the house just has to go because it's so much easier to finalize everything if they don't have to deal with a division of the assets regarding the home, trying to decide if somebody's going to stay, if someone's going to go, how that is all going to work out. So they just say, let's wipe the slate clean and the house has to go.
Oh,
and
I don't know. I don't like that.
I don't like that either, and that's why I started specializing in this particular arena, because it was making me really mad that people were being bullied into making decisions that they just didn't want to make and that were not the right decision for them. Yeah, so we're all in this together, trying to figure out not what's best for the legal advisor, the realtor, the financial planner. It's about the family. It's about the family and the kids.
Well, as a divorce and parenting coach, my experience is always that the less changes that happen, the smoother and easier the transition for the children. So when you can have at least the family home as part of the picture, it just keeps life so much smoother and easier for those in the family who are there, and the shock of change isn't quite as dramatic. What's your experience, Joanie?
I think that's a great point. Absolutely, and I fully agree with you for the most part. The only caveat is I have found a lot of women in particular want to keep the home, and they say they're going to keep this home at all costs, and they haven't looked very carefully at their budget
Yeah.
or a post-divorce budget, and they have no idea how much it's going to cost them to keep the home just on a day-to-day basis, thinking in terms of, for most people, you can figure the annual maintenance is going to be about 1% of what the value of the home is. You have a $300,000 home, you better have $3,000 put aside because there are going to be maintenance repair issues. So it's fully thinking this through on the emotional side as well as on the financial side.
So hard.
It is, but that's why it takes a team of all of us, right?
I know. Well, the other thing is too is that I know they say try to keep it, like you said, Ross, the same for the children, so there's not a lot of, moving around, and they're used to the home, they're used to the same bedroom, and you try to maintain that as much as possible. But I know, having divorced a long time ago, my taxes have gone up a lot.
Yeah,
The house is older now and needs more repairs.
right.
It gets expensive, and I know like you said, we try at all costs to keep it.
Right.
So I see that's, the challenge for people.
Yes, it is a challenge, and that's why my mantra is it takes a team. And we need the financial planner, we need the tax guidance, we need the coaches to handle the emotional side of it. Because sometimes there are even tax ramifications, not immediately, but longer term, because you have a $500,000 exemption regarding the marital home when you're a couple, when you're married, but that drops to $250,000 when you are single. So when you sell your home as a single person, you could be facing capital gains, which hopefully someone explained to you somewhere along the line.
Yeah, this is very complicated, no doubt about it. It is not a simple arena to handle. Again, as a divorce and parenting coach, with my first priority is the well-being of the children. If the family home can't be kept, staying in the same community, in the same schools, in the same neighborhoods, all of that also simplifies matters. That's not always possible, but we always recommend, again, so there's less shifts. If you do have to move and you're staying in the same school district, it's much less traumatic for the children to make the adaptations that inevitably have to take place.
Yeah, this is their community, and this represents stability.
Joan, I was curious, as far as, I know everyone's concerned about the children and so forth, but what have you found over the years working with people during and after divorce in the home, keeping the house? What's the percentage? Most people are able to keep it, or they're having to clean the slate as they're being advised to do, or what have you found?
Well, that's really evolved, because when I started this as a real estate divorce specialist about 6 years ago, there was a type of loan which was called a no documentation loan. At that point, the woman, who was usually not the primary breadwinner, had an easier time of qualifying for the loan. And then when things tightened up, that went away. So it was a little more difficult frequently for her, not being the main breadwinner, to keep the home. But those are starting to make a resurgence. So I'm anticipating that once that becomes known, that people will look long and hard at that. And again, they want to be sure they're creating a conservative post-divorce budget and not going to get in over their heads. But I would say, by and large, what you are saying, I have found to be true. The women want to keep the home. Usually they can, if they have all the information that they need. So yeah,
And
generally speaking, it's the majority.
And if they're working themselves, and hopefully with enough child support and so forth, it would still work out okay.
Yes, but then another factor that you're bringing up is the child support and the maintenance are looked at differently now than they were years ago. That's been tightened up as well. So now when people say, oh, you're getting X amount in child support and X amount in maintenance, we'll just count that towards your qualifying. Well, not so fast, because now you have to have what they called a seasoned history. You have to prove that you've got 6 months to a year of that income actually coming in. So you have to bring bank statements or some other form of proof. And you also have to prove that you will, according to your final agreement, receive that for 3 years into the future.
Wow.
Trying to protect you so that you are not in financial peril if you were relying on this income, child support and maintenance. And we all know sometimes it isn't paid, or it isn't paid in a timely fashion. So it's really for the consumer's protection. And so this has to be looked at very carefully as well. So if you have a 16-year-old you're receiving child support for, in most states the child support will stop at 18 or 19. Well, that's not going to give you a 3-year future for receiving this child support, so you really can't count that child's child support towards your mortgage.
Well, I'm curious as far as, and maybe it's different in every state or maybe it's changed. I mean, I was divorced so long ago. Is it, you still can receive child support unless that's what you agree upon while the child is in college?
Yeah, but I think that you're right. I think that is according to the state, because, and I think that's a state rule, but I'm not an attorney. I know here in Colorado, college education is not mandated, that either party pay for the college education, and at 19 the child is emancipated, so there is no more responsibility to pay child support.
Wow.
So check according to your state for your listeners.
Things have changed a lot since 1995.
Yes, they have. They've changed a lot. Just actually, the child support and maintenance laws changed again the first of this year.
When you say maintenance, I'm thinking house maintenance, or what? I just want clarity on
one party is paying support for the other. They used to call it alimony.
Oh, okay.
And now they're calling it maintenance. Maybe that's changed too.
Okay. I have a question about whether you've had any experience, Joan, with people. I know during the recession and the tough years that have gone by, and we're still in the midst for many families, whether a lot of families were caught not being able to afford the divorce that they wanted and sort of stuck in their reality in their homes living together because they couldn't sell the home fast enough, or they just couldn't afford for the two of them to move into separate residences. I was just wondering if you had any personal experience with families that wanted a divorce and a sort of in a limbo place where they're all living in the family home and trying to make do. Is that a reality in your experience?
Yes, it is a very large reality. I talked to countless people who wanted to get a divorce or wanted to sell the home, and they were upside down. And our market's a lot stronger and has remained a lot stronger than a lot of other areas of the country, but we were still even experiencing that here. And I would counsel with them where one party is living on one floor, the other party is living on the other, and the kids are going back and forth, and it's an incredibly high stress situation. And that's eased a little bit, thankfully, but yes, you are exactly right. That was very prevalent.
Yeah, the stress of situations like that. I know people have had to be very creative, and the stress behind that kind of creativity, because it isn't anything of anyone's choice. Everyone is just adapting to a what is.
Yes.
And, it can be very tough, and hopefully the parents are getting some kind of coaching or counseling to help them co-parent effectively for the sake of the kids, because the kids are caught in the crosshairs of all this craziness.
Yeah, and that is so often the case, and I certainly applaud you for the work you do. If we could all just understand that the kids are in the middle, frequently used as pawns, and so on and so forth.
What my concern is if you didn't get along, you know, and you don't get along after divorce, and this is where I see is that people just can't seem to communicate and get along, and then if there's a third party involved, oh my goodness, then it really.
Yes, and to have all of this under one roof is just
kids,
not healthy for anybody.
The kids right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Joan, anything else that you want to share with our listeners as far as pros and cons or words of wisdom, advice for them?
To understand, and thank you for that opportunity, I think the main point to share is you really have three options regarding the home: that you're going to sell it, that somebody is going to keep it, or that someone's going to keep it for a limited, specified amount of time. Be very, very careful if you fall under one of the second or the third umbrella. Make sure that your final agreement is written appropriately, because I've also seen final agreements written where it is stated that so and so is one party or the other is just going to be removed from the mortgage, so they will be free from any responsibility regarding the home. A person cannot just be removed from the mortgage. You have to have the note holders, the lender's permission. What happens in this given scenario is it is revealed when the party who was to be removed wants to buy a new home, and that requires that they go through post-divorce agreement. It is a further legal procedure. They have to go back to court to have the final agreement amended to get that person off the mortgage. So just approach it very carefully and make sure that your team of advisors is really going over everything with a fine-tooth comb for you, and you're making a really informed decision.
Definitely. And we do have a quick question here before we scoot. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. It says, in the state of Minnesota, let me just pull it up here for a minute. In the state of Minnesota, child support ends on the 19th birthday or when the child graduates from high school, whichever is the latter. So I guess it's the same thing that we're seeing in that state as well. So I'm not sure, like you said, it's per state that happens. So it's been so long. So I just remember mine was the 23rd, the last child graduated from college. So maybe Massachusetts has changed. It's not something I really worry about now at this point. Way past that. We're into marriage now and all, so we're way past that.
That's great. But
John,
yes, check according to your state.
I want people to be able to get a hold of you and connect with you. You've done such wonderful things. It's called the Wildflower Group.
Yes, I actually have my real estate business, which is Rogliano Real Estate Group here in Colorado, and then I have a marketing program called Wildflower Group, which helps professionals to support these families as they're going through transition. And from that, I created a nonprofit, which is Wildflower Women's Organization. And that's here in Colorado, and we raise money, we get grants and so forth so that we can provide financial aid for families going through divorce. Someone wants to go back to school, they can't pay their rent, electricity, so on and so forth, and they can apply for financial aid. And we also have activities to help them to create a new community.
That's wonderful. That is great stuff.
Thank you.
I'm just thrilled that you were on the show today, Joan. And this is something that I think we could continue another whole show just to talk about this. And I'd love to have you back, just to keep us updated. It sounds like things are changing all the time.
They are, and I'm just on a mission of education. So again, I so appreciate the opportunity to share this. And if anyone has any questions I can help in any way, please let me know, and I'd absolutely love to be back with you.
Definitely, definitely.
Joan, it sounds like you would be a wonderful role model for other realtors who inevitably are dealing with divorce wherever they are living, to teach them some of these skills and the bigger picture that you are handling. I love the educational facet, and the Wildflower Group can be a role model in every state. We all need those kinds of resources and the caring, compassionate help that you are offering and the wisdom that you have.
Thank you, and that is exactly the business model for Wildflower Group. We are currently in about 7 states.
Oh, wonderful.
And the mission is to, actually we've had contacts internationally, to create a support group, so when women are going through this, they can look for a Wildflower Group affiliate in their state.
That's
So
great.
thank you.
We'll have to talk offline and get Florida and Massachusetts there.
Yeah. And
Okie doke. I'm here.
Oh, thanks again, Joan. And
My
Roz,
pleasure.
I want to make sure that everyone knows how to connect with you as well. And I'm just so grateful you've been on the show with us today.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can find me and all the valuable resources that I have to offer at childcentereddivorce.com. And I provide coaching services. I have an audio coaching program and lots of other resources. Do we have the website for you, Joan? Tell us again.
My website is Rogliano, Rogliano, RoglianoRealEstateGroup.com, or you can certainly go to wildflowergroup.net. Might be a little easier to remember and to spell because everything comes into one basic email. So I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, great. And also, to see this show, if you'd like to see the recorded show again, go to divorceview.com. And also, while you're there, because I'm kind of known as the communicator guru, I want people to be able to get along, sometimes probably better than when were married. And so go to the website communicate-with-style.com, and we help you really understand why you both do what you do and try to get along the best you can for the sake of those kids. So once again, ladies, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also to our audience, our listeners, tune in every week when we have a special guest. Next week, Roz and I have a special show lined up. Just going to be her and I, and we're going to be answering some good questions that you might have. So let us know. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you then.